it's hard to maintain 6 feet of distance on a wrestling mat.
Right.
I think we might violate some CDC guidelines there.
Yeah.
All right, so I didn't have 2 switches turned on our restream. They're now on,
Okay. Oh, there we go.
and people should start finding us.
Yeah. Great.
So I'll just
I see
repeat
it.
what I said before. You'll find us on Facebook
Yes.
at Back Green and Glocker Real Estate
There we are.
and
Oh,
Porchcast Pottstown on YouTube. And you'll be able to find the stream there. I believe Sierra, who is a campaign staffer for Paul Friel, is going to be sharing it over to Paul Friel for PA. So that will be another area that you can find the show. And I think she's going to be sharing it out and possibly setting up some watch parties.
Excellent.
People at home can do the same thing to help us get the word out. And I did see that quite a few Porchtonians shared the
Yes,
event out.
Which was
So-
very nice. Thank you, everyone, for
Yes.
your support. We appreciate it. Hi, Scott is here. Gail is here. Hello.
So here's the deal. We're sitting here with Paul Friel, who's running for PA State Representative in the 26th District. Do you want to just give us a little bit of a rundown of the communities that are within the 26th District?
Yeah, absolutely. So the 26th district is one of those friendly gerrymandered districts.
Yes.
Encompasses northern Chester County. So from the Vincents, like East and West Vincent, the Coventrys, East Coventry, North and South Coventry, Warwick. And then it goes out west, to the Salisburys, Honeybrook.
I didn't realize it went that
Elverson.
far west out to Honeybrook.
Yeah, it's a really large geographic.
Yeah.
And then it encompasses about half of Pottstown.
Okay.
So the split's sort of it's a weird split where Joe Cerisi's area is and where it's kind of like the Hill School West.
Okay.
And, we're kind of sitting in the heart of the 26th district right now on the Porchcast here.
Yeah,
So-
in the Nohano. So that we have little names that we've created for a lot of the different neighborhoods here in Pottstown. So you are sitting smack dab in the middle of the Nohano neighborhood.
which is
okay.
North Hanover. North Hanover.
yeah, it's
so it's
just
kind of
short
a
for
play
North
on like
Hanover.
Soho. So we're No Hano.
Nahano. I
No
love
Hano.
it. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So as we start to talk to Paul, you'll be able to make some comments down. If you want to type in your comments or your questions during the course of the show, please feel free to do so. The more comments that we get, the more likes and shares that we get, the more people that will hear Paul's message.
Yes.
Facebook and YouTube want to show popular videos to people. So help us make it popular by joining into the show. And to that extent, the show does not work without class participation.
Everybody is being graded on participation.
Yes,
I'm
we're
not sure that's
we are all on a bell curve for participation when
But
it
in
comes
this
to
class, you can drink.
yes, alcohol is
Yes.
free.
So I want to give a quick shout out to our happy hour beverage sponsor, Pottstown United Brewing, down on High Street.
Very good, by the
so
way.
they have
good stuff.
provided us with the Schuylkill IPA,
Yep.
which is what Matt and Paul are drinking. I am drinking the Escape Goat Black Cherry Seltzer. So this is a seltzer. No fuss, just fizz. It's very tasty, gluten-free, and vegan-friendly. I know you care about that, Matt.
Well, I'm not a vegan.
And then we also have some canned cocktails, so I'm going to hit one of those next.
Now, did the Escape Goat come from Pottstown United Brewing
Yeah.
Company as well?
Yep. So this is Faber Distilling Company. So Faber is, I want to say it's in Bucks County someplace. It's Milford Township. That's way north.
That's north, yeah.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, they're all relatively local brews.
They're all, Pennsylvania and on this side of the state. So I do like the seltzers because, I'm girly. So this one is delicious.
And Adam Burke from Schuylkill, or from Pottstown United Brewing Company, sent these beers onto the set for
Yeah.
us to enjoy while we're
Special
talking.
shout out to Jess. She put this all together for us. Thank you, Jess.
Nice.
Yes.
Support your local brewery. Support your local servers. Remember, these folks have been hard hit by the pandemic. So if you go down there to pick something up or to have a meal or to have a beer, just send them a little bit of extra love with
be
your
kind and be
tips.
generous.
Yeah.
Yes. So
It-
cheers, Mom. My mom is watching.
There you go. So, yeah, I guess that's just true of all these small businesses along here, right? Just
Right.
COVID's been, just devastating to small business.
Yeah, and I think a lot of small businesses have had to find a way to adjust, and we're seeing some of that with with pubs doing canned beer now so they can carry out. Most of the restaurants are living up to the health code mandates where they have to go to limited seating, and the outdoor seating, which while the weather is fine, is a workaround, but it's going to start getting cold here shortly.
Yeah.
So there's going to be a transition that everybody's going to have to make. And, that's one of the things that we've tried to do here on Porchcast is to encourage people to go and visit their local establishments, their local businesses, especially here in Pottstown, because that's where we're based. This show is completely based off of what happens in Pottstown and the surrounding community. So we do encourage people to take part of what is happening locally. And, it helps you maintain those smaller circles that we're supposed to be doing because of social distancing. Yeah. Why get in your car and drive 20, 30 minutes away when there's all this great stuff right here?
Right in your own community, yeah.
In the 19464 and the 19465. Now,
We'll give some love to the fivers.
Paul's a fiver.
No, I'm not.
You're not a fiver.
I'm not a fiver.
I thought you were.
No.
Where do
I
you live?
grew up in a 4. I was 464 at my
Grover.
parents.
Grover.
And
Okay.
when I went to
Okay.
Pius.
Okay.
So I was 464. My parents are still over there. I was a fiver for a little, early after I got married in North Coventry, but I moved over, and we're in East Vincent, which is a Phoenixville mailing address.
Okay.
So it's 460.
Okay.
So
I said
I moved.
Phoenixville. I need
I'm
a
not
travel
anywhere
visa
near
to go there.
Phoenixville,
Right.
but
But
the mailing address it's actually Kimberton post
Okay.
office is right
Right.
near my house.
And this is
but-
how local this show becomes. We don't even have a name for you. We don't even have a name for your
Right?
neighborhood.
Yeah, I'm
So
just.
if you could come up with something while we're talking, spit it out
That's
there.
like the Phoenixville is like the hinterlands as far
And
as I'm concerned.
we'll
Yeah.
add that. We'll add that to the Porchcast lexicon.
Yeah, driving to Pottstown and Phoenixville is like I'm right in between. It's similar, but I grew up over here and went to high school in Pottstown, so I'm definitely
Focused.
but I come this direction.
Yeah.
Right.
When we just,
And you
grow
went
up.
to St. Pius 10th High School?
I
the
did.
former St. Pius 10th High School?
Yeah, the former no longer there.
Existence, right.
St. Pius 10th
I
High School.
graduated from there as well. I don't mind saying my age because everybody that watches shows knows how old I am.
Yeah.
I graduated in 92.
Yep. I was 87, so I was a couple years ahead of you. I think we were talking before the show. You were I think my little brother was 93, so a year younger.
He was
than
a year
you,
younger than me.
Younger than you.
And I
Pius.
played soccer with your brother.
Yeah. So.
I at least remember practicing soccer with your brother. I don't, unfortunately, have a recollection of playing on the field with him, but I'm sure it happened.
That's what happens when you get old, Matt.
Yes.
I can't remember.
Yeah.
Back that time. I met my wife there, so I can remember her. But
Okay.
at least that's
Good,
what I
yeah,
will
that's
say on the Porchcast.
Yeah.
I remember everything.
Right.
That's
Like a lovely-
Scout's honor.
like a
She made a
lovely
lasting
dream.
impression.
She made a lasting impression. Yeah.
So from Pius, you graduated from Pius,
Yeah.
and then you went to Temple,
I went to
right?
Temple,
You told us
yep.
that before the show.
Yep. So I was down in Temple, and then was a business major there. When I graduated Temple, I went to work as a purchasing at Wawa, down Wawa corporate.
Okay.
So I was a buyer, and that was my first sort of job in the real world.
Right.
It's funny because when I was in college and I was traveling around, and I was an international business major, I thought, I'm going to go and do this, and never thought I'd kind of move back into the area. And then I found myself, working corporate there. Then my wife moved back from college. She went to school in Rhode Island, and then we got back together, started dating. Next thing you know, marriage, raising a family,
Right.
and I've never left the area.
Right.
Which, isn't necessarily a bad thing. Like, I have a similar story. I grew up here. We're actually in the backyard of the house that I grew up in. And about 5 years ago, I moved next door. So I moved back to the neighborhood that I grew
So it's a
up
long commute when you're doing the Porchcast.
It's a super long commute.
Well, usually we're
Yeah.
at my house, which
So,
is across the street.
across the street.
Yeah.
Oh, wow,
And
you guys,
we're at Ken's
yeah.
house, which is also across the street. Yeah. We have a very
Oh, you're
small.
across the street too?
Yeah.
Right, yeah. We have and a twin.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we have a twin. and Kevin and his sister lived next door.
And then I graduated from Pius. I went to Lycoming College. Then I went down to University of Maryland, Baltimore County. Long story short, of my 46 years, 36 of those years have been inside the geographic boundaries of the borough of Pottstown. And, much like yourself, when I was younger, I had these ideas that I was going to move away and make my fortune somewhere else. But ultimately, I came back and have not been disappointed in my decision to stay.
No, it's a great,
in the area.
it's a great place to raise a family. I mean, I raised 4 kids here and in the area, and honestly, it's a tremendous place, and I just want to see it, continue to prosper, and
right.
Hopefully we can help that along. It's one of the reasons I'm running, but I don't regret having my family here and raising my family here. I think it's been a great place.
I wouldn't be anyplace else.
Now
really.
you have 4 kids, right?
I do.
And so what's the breakdown? You want to give us the age and the gender?
Yeah, so I have 3 girls and a boy. I got 3 badass daughters who are they are strong women. So my oldest is 31. She's actually pregnant with our first grandchild. So
congratulations.
Thanksgiving Day.
How fun.
Cheers. There you go. Cheers.
Excellent. Congratulations.
So Thanksgiving Day, we're expecting. She won't disclose the name, so we just call him Baby Louie right now.
Okay. That's gonna stick.
That's what we said.
Stick. Yeah.
And she's. We tried to break her down to tell us, but she's not admitting anything yet. Then my next daughter's 23. She just graduated from Temple.
Okay.
So she's living down the city in Philadelphia. Didn't want to come home, and we're like, great. Well, mom and dad are done, so you need to have a job and pay for yourself. And
right.
She was determined to did it. So God bless her. She's there doing it. And then my son Xavier is a senior at Virginia Tech, and my youngest daughter. So we thought we were empty nesters for about 2 weeks. My wife and I were very excited.
You got the old bait and switch, huh?
We thought we were empty nesters. We sent her away to JMU as a freshman. 2 weeks later, they returned her because they had like the COVID outbreak and like 750 kids, and they just sent the entire dorm home and said, no freshmen, no on-campus living. Everybody's home, and it's all asynchronous. So we had 2 weeks where,
you got a taste.
I got a little taste.
Of it.
So I'm not 100% sure my wife still likes me because it was only 2 weeks. So I was still in the trial period. So we'll see how it goes.
She's going to have to delay her final
decision.
She's has
to delay the final decision. So I'm on notice. We'll see how it goes.
And then you said your son at one point in time went to the Hill School or did go to the Hill School?
Yeah. So my son graduated from Hill. So he went to O&J through middle school, and then he ended up going to Hill School for 9th through senior year. So I was driving in and out of Pottstown felt like every day for 4 years.
Making that drive several times a day.
And then when they closed the Kime Street Bridge, that was really annoying because that was like freshman year. I could cut over there, but then I had to drive around. So
right. Yeah. So, infrastructure is something that we talk about a lot on this show, and I don't know if we're going to get to that in our topics, but it is something that we talk about a lot, especially in an aging town like Pottstown. Infrastructure is really important.
It's a huge issue.
It's a big quality of life issue.
I mean, it's a huge issue because it's about the priorities. We'll be serious here for a minute about why I'm really running and what's important to us as people living in a community like Pottstown. But there's 18 cities in Pennsylvania that have higher lead contamination than Flint, Michigan.
Wow.
That's insane.
Yeah.
We have the second highest lead testing in children in the country.
Wow.
That's infrastructure. That's a failure to invest in infrastructure.
Right.
Right. And you guys see it right down here. Go just as Manatoni overflows and you have the, underneath.
Oh, our
the sewers and underneath over there, the structure, the arches there, right?
Yeah.
And then, the hands off. Oh, it's the home. No, it's not. That's something that the state, and when we're looking at what communities need and how do we invest in communities, it creates jobs, it creates safety. We can't not invest in infrastructure. We have a right, I think, as everyone should, to drink clean water,
right?
To have a safe environment, to breathe clean air,
right?
And And that is where the priorities of our legislators should be, not voting for stuff that's big insurance companies or fossil fuel industries. And it's not one or the other. I think we can walk and chew gum at the same time. We can build infrastructure, we can bring power, and we can do it safely.
Right.
We can invest in Pottstown infrastructure, and honestly, it's going to be good for the community economically and safety-wise.
Right.
Right? These are investments that have an ROI. And we should be looking and thinking that way and keeping it local. Instead of giving tax breaks to these large businesses from out of state or wherever they are, we should be looking. We started to show off talking about small businesses, like the local guys like Public here. This is what makes us great communities. These guys are who invests back into the community. They hire locally. They hire local accountants, local lawyers, local people. And who sponsors the local Little League or PAL or whatever team it is? It's local companies and local businesses. And that's what we should be creating, an environment that allows those businesses to thrive, because it'll allow families in those communities to thrive.
Right.
That's my idea of what we should be doing.
We've talked about infrastructure on the show almost since the beginning because we've been impacted by it on the show, right? We've had times when the electrical grid has gone down here. We've had problems everybody had problems with the internet and with connectivity at the beginning of this pandemic because everybody was staying home. That's infrastructure too, if you think about it.
Absolutely.
And I would say this, and I maybe you agree with me. I hope you do. If we're spending more money on building these bridges, paving our roads, fixing this crumbling infrastructure, right? I mean, not here in Pennsylvania, but out in Michigan, we saw whole communities destroyed by flooding caused by dam breaks, right? If we can spend some money on that locally here in Pottstown, roads, bridges, electric grid, communications grids, I haven't found a single person yet who can tell me that won't impact or make small business stronger. And even if you break it down to its lowest common denominator, in my opinion, that road crew that's fixing the road or fixing the bridge is going to come into your community. They're working on the road. They're working on the bridge. They're going to get hungry.
Right.
They're going to run out of gas in their car. They're going to want to go get a pack of gum or a pack of smokes, whatever they're into. They're going to stop by the pub on their way home from work to pick up a 4-pack or to grab a hamburger. That's money that's going to directly come into the community and affect these small businesses. And once the roads and the bridges are fixed, it eases the transportation. It eases getting their products to and from markets.
Yeah, I believe there's a real return on investment for these types of things. And you mentioned something that is really interesting, the internet and connectivity, because, it's about also equity, too, and access, right? And it's funny, you say, in Pottstown, and we can talk about it a little bit later, but I've been an advocate and on fair funding and equity issues. But the internet's interesting because we have to invest in this area specifically because we're going to have 5G rolling out.
Right.
It's going to be unregulated, right? If we don't have somebody that regulates it and says, no, we have to invest in these hotspots in these places, or else we're going to leave whole communities behind and not have them have access that everybody else has, and it'll be at a disadvantage. And the first people who suffer will be our children. Because when Pottstown, when we went to COVID, they didn't get back online learning until months, like 2 months after everybody else did.
Right.
Part of it's access to internet and hotspots and setting it up. Part of it's the Chromebooks and the technology that other wealthier. But you know who's interesting? The western side of this district is farms. Only 75% of farms have internet exchange. So 25% of those farms don't. Rural Pennsylvania does not have coverage. So the same thing you say, Pottstown has more like urban and inner city type of issues with infrastructure, and we're a diverse community. Well, you go out there in rural communities.
We're right on that verge.
They have the same issues with access and infrastructure. They don't have it.
Right.
Their kids don't have it. They're small businesses too, those farms. They don't have this access. We need equity across access on the internet, access to education, investing in our small businesses, helps all our communities, and it helps Pennsylvania. And that's why we have to really rethink about, are we helping Wall Street? Are we helping Main Street?
Right.
And Main Street is where jobs are created. Main Street is where communities are built. Main Street is where education starts. It's where it's a cycle. We have kids that have access and opportunities. They're going to grow up and they're going to get educated and they're going to build those businesses, right? You're going to have an educated workforce.
And we hope that they come back.
And they hope they
like
stay
you
here,
did,
right?
Like Matt did, like my husband did. Let's make it so that they want to come back. And you can make a big difference here in your, you don't need to go out on those, like you thought you were going to be an international businessman. Matt, you thought maybe you were going to be out west. Well, guess what? You can make a big impact and affect a lot of people for good.
Right here.
Right here. Yeah. When my father-in-law gave the commencement speech at Hill a few years ago, that was his message. Like, you don't have to go and have a what you would consider a glamorous career out in some glamorous big city. You can make a bigger impact on a lot of people by coming back to your roots.
It's the big fish in the little pond type saying, right?
Yeah.
You can probably make a bigger splash in your own community.
And if you really
Plus,
want to help people,
the network is there
on a
for
hyper
you.
local level.
If I had gone out west earlier as a younger man, and I just didn't stay out there, but I would have had to completely reinvent my entire network out there.
Sure.
Where as I came home to Pottstown, this is where my network was. It was much easier for me to plug in and really start making an impact because I'm from here. I knew everybody.
Right.
And along those regards, I do want to send some shout outs to some of the people that are tuning in.
Yeah, thanks for watching, everyone. Appreciate
Especially
it.
since we're talking about some education stuff. Joe Rusevich from the Foundation for Pottstown Education is watching the show. He's a big fan. And he was instrumental in going out and creating those funds and getting those donations so that the kids here in Pottstown could get the Chromebooks. Because unlike our neighboring school districts, the funding was just not there for those kids initially. And you referenced that.
Yeah, absolutely. I saw it. I'm on the school board over at O&J Roberts, so I'm close to a lot of these education issues, and I see it. I'm also on an advocacy group with a lot of folks from Pottstown School District and a lot of other school boards. But it was founded right here in Pottstown, and it's because of that disproportionate funding in Pennsylvania. And there's something, I know you guys have probably heard of that fair funding formula, which is one component, but it's also property tax.
Right.
That Pennsylvania is disproportionately the worst funded state in the country. We rank 50th.
Wow.
Right? That's insane, right? That's crazy. As far as state funding goes, we rank 47th. Right? That's not a formula for success for our kids. Then you look at, well, how does that impact, like property tax? Is that the proper way to fund education? Let's take, for example, Pottstown and the mills, like average 0.41 mills, right? You go to O&J, 0.31 mills. You go to Radnor, it's even less, right? So the higher the wealth of the community, the less percentage of tax you pay for education, but the more you get, the more dollars per kid you get. And that's not fair. Your zip code shouldn't be determining what you get from state-funded education. It should be fair. It should be proportional.
Right. So how do you fix that? So you've got the fair funding formula, which we all know is not fully implemented.
Correct.
Right. So then how do you fix that?
Only about 11% of the funds from the fair funding formula go through that, which means 90% of it is harming kids. It's because you're not harming school. You're not taking funds away from school districts. You're taking funds away from children. Right. And if you're funded $2,000 less per kid in this, it's not just that it's this 2001. That's accumulated over 12 years of education. So that's $24,000 or $30,000
Per kid.
of less per kid, of less opportunity that kid had.
Right.
So these kids who's starting out on second base, and then we're going to advance them even further. And we're going to deny other children.
Right.
And all we're saying is be equitable about it.
Right.
Let's figure out a way to make it equitable and proportionately fund education. So first of all, we should fairly fund and fully implement the fair funding formula. That is just the ethical moral thing to
To
do.
do.
So
Right?
how does that happen? Is that just a vote? Like, okay, yes, let's 100% implement that. Or I know it's not that simple, but
you have to have the political will.
right.
Right? And the only way you're going to have the political will to put that through a vote is to change leadership.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, right now, you know how many and it's the leadership of the House and the Senate and the Pennsylvania where the majority of these bills go to die. Right? We have 12 bills between the Senate and the House that could help health care, lower prescription drug costs, and they're never going to get a vote. They're never going to make it out of committee because the committee chairs prevent them from coming out to the floor. So you never even get it's not a fair process where you get a fair vote.
Right.
So we need to change the leadership and who runs these committees. And the only way you're going to do it, I mean, the best form of advocacy that you have, that any of us have, is to vote.
Right.
That is it. That is where the power lies, in the vote. And that's where we have to be real advocates and to send different folks. And honestly, we don't need career politicians.
Right.
We need folks that are coming out of the community that understand it. Now, I'm a small business owner. I never thought I'd run for anything. But I got so frustrated from what I'm seeing from special interests and large, votes going to large insurance companies and large companies. And I'm like, no, it's not right.
That's not the way that it should be.
We got to be
right?
taking care of our neighbors.
Right.
We
Right.
got to have votes that reflect our community values. I don't think that's much to ask.
No. It should
Right?
be a
I-
basic.
should-
It
that
should
should
be
be
like
what
it
we
should
should
be just
do.
like a basic benchmark.
That should be
right?
basic.
Right. To have
benchmark.
your constituents' best interest in mind.
Imagine every
should be-
vote you take that
right.
that is what you are doing.
That's what's motivating
that what's
you.
going to help
right.
our neighbors.
Right.
What's going to help our community.
Right.
So
Not what company funded whatever thing or what lobbyist group does this. But how does it affect our community? That
so
should be it.
How
And
long
it
have you
seems
been
to
on
me-
the?
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
It seems to me that on the lower levels, we all know about the problems with money in national politics.
Mm-hmm.
But it seems to me on the lower levels, the local, the state level, it should be achievable because we really are talking about our next door neighbor,
Mm-hmm.
people that live in our community, in our towns. We should all want people to have an equal shot and do the best that they can do, right?
Mm-hmm.
So even if you are a proponent of this bootstrapping, everybody's got to pull themselves up from with their bootstraps. Let's give people decent bootstraps so that they can do it.
Right. Let's make sure that everybody has boots first.
Right. Yeah.
So that they can pull themselves up by them. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm a capitalist. I'm a small
Right.
business owner.
Sure.
I think the government's role is to put the guardrails up, right, and have a even playing field.
Yes.
Let's just call balls and strikes.
Right.
Let's not get involved in picking winners and losers. Let have government put the social safety nets in place, so that it's fair. So people are, who are working 48 hours a week, earn a living wage. The people who are that we're not saying these large companies pay no tax, but you, Matt, as a local business owner, you pay this. So now these guys got an advantage over you, who live in this community.
Right.
That's not fair.
No.
Let's close these loopholes. Let's make a fair playing
Right.
field, and then let's see who wins.
Right.
And then I say, have at it. Then let the market and the innovators and the hard
Do it
workers
as long as it's
reap
a
the
even
rewards.
right.
Right.
And I'm all for that. And I
Right.
think that's how we should be. That's American to me. That's
Right.
what I believe, is American ingenuity and American hard work. But it's got to be fair.
Right.
It can't be stacked.
Good deal.
So how long
So-
have you been on the school board and at O&J?
So 1 year.
Just 1 year.
Just
All right.
1 year.
So you're like, this politics is so fun. I'm gonna go.
Yeah, did I pick the year to do
Right?
it? So I
Yeah.
picked the year of the COVID-19.
Right.
When we're all figured out, it was supposed to be Monday nights. You go on and you're trying to help out your community,
Right.
and it turned into 3 days a week of
Right.
meetings.
Yeah.
So
It's one of my best friends is the president of the school board here in Pottstown. So I know how difficult it has been
Absolutely.
to make these decisions, with the kids' best interests in mind and taking into consideration the challenges of our population. It's been it's been a lot of sleepless nights, as I'm sure it has been for you as well.
Absolutely, and it's tough because you got competing interests too, and in a good way. Like these kids are hurt being home and
Yes,
not being able
absolutely.
to do the things they normally do.
Right.
So your heart goes out. But you also say, hey, Pottstown, it's a vulnerable community if you have 3 generations in there and the kids are coming home and
Yes.
you have mom and dad who go out to work and you have other childcare issues that, there's a lot of decisions. And then sports. Do you do it? Do you not do it? Like, you can't be a source of community spread. You have to be safe, and you have competing interests. But you also can't ignore the kids' educational needs, right?
Yeah.
It's a challenge.
Yeah, you're not going to make everybody happy.
There is no. I said this a few times on school board. I said I'm going to trade my mask in for a blindfold and a cigarette because we're getting shot.
Yes,
No
it's
matter
a thankless.
what
It is
vote-
a thankless job.
Yeah,
it really
no matter
is.
what vote you're taking,
Right.
about a third of the people you can guarantee are going to be
Yes.
not happy with that vote on school board because there's no right answer. And honestly, the politicians in Harrisburg did not help us. They kicked the can down the road
and left it to the local
left
school
it
boards.
to the local school board.
Right.
I don't know about you, but I'm not an epidemiologist.
Right.
Why am I making this decision
Yeah.
that should be made by health experts,
A
but they're
little bit
saying,
more
let's let the
guidance.
local school board worry about it.
Right.
And it's all these guys it's the same thing with all the funding. Oh, you have to do this, local school board. You have to do this up in Harrisburg.
Oh, to give mandates without
to give
funding?
mandates without funding.
Yes.
Or actually, let's lower the percentage of funding that comes from Harrisburg, which they've done every year. And then guess who gets the bill? It's not like you can turn the electricity off in the building, right?
Right.
So the bill comes, it goes to local property tax.
Sure.
So every single vote that voted for a budget in Harrisburg that lessened the percentage of funding for schools, that increased property taxes.
Right.
Every single one of those budgets that did
Right.
that.
Right.
That's where it goes. But they go, oh, yeah, we lowered the budget. That bill came.
Dude, somebody has got to pay for it somehow.
Right.
Right. It doesn't
that
just.
bill comes.
Yeah.
Someone's paying for it. And they don't care because they're not held accountable for these votes. So I'm here to just say I want to hold people accountable for that.
Right.
It's time we had change in leadership. It's a time we just vote. Listen, I never thought I was going to run for a state rep.
Right.
I don't need to be a state rep. It wasn't my career path. But I believe in stepping up and helping my community.
Right.
And I want to make sure we make the right decisions for our community and for our kids. All right?
So on the show, we talk about people being contributors to society. And on Porchcast, we call the people that watch Porchcast Porchtonians. And the Porchtonians have proven time and time again that they're contributors to society. They step up to the plate to get things done. We have a lot of Rotary people that watch the show. We have members of nonprofit organizations. We have directors of nonprofit organizations that watch this show to provide us with information and also to find out what's going on. And so, I would put you in there with that. I think you are demonstrating that you are a citizen who's willing to step up to the plate and be a contributor to society, to do the best that you can to help your neighbor. And let's get real about it. You said it. You're a small business man too. You're a small business owner. You want to help yourself too. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
If you can do it in a way that helps lift everybody up.
Right.
Now, in that regard, I've got a couple of text messages to my phone, and people are asking about a couple of things. And I also want to remind people, we are monitoring the comments of this show. Please, if you have a question for Paul, if there's a topic that you want to address, or even if you just want him to repeat some information, throw it up in the comments of the show. We'll get it on the show. Not to mention the fact that the more comments on the show, the more Facebook is going to get this message out.
Right.
So I just that's a little bit of housekeeping that's going on. There's 3 different people here on set that are monitoring show comments. So please, if you have a question, don't send it to me on my private text message.
Right.
Put it in
Put
the
it in the
comments
comments,
of the show. So one of the things,
Mom has a question.
Oh.
go ahead, lay it
Fire
on
it
us.
away, Mom.
So, my mom says, are you willing to work with the other side, even if it means letting the other side get the credit for the good that was done? Our country's biggest biggest need is for us to listen to each other and work together. Do you have any examples of how you've been trying to work towards that end?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll tell you, because I'm not a party guy, right? I've described myself in the past as a promiscuous voter. I voted for the person, not the party, right? I believe in that. But for example, O&J Roberts School Board right now is now, it's an even split. It's 4-5. So there's 5 Republicans and 4 Democrats now on the board. We had a majority Democrat, but 1 left, and we had to replace them. So my first 3 votes.
Yeah, you had a little shake-up there in the spring, didn't you?
We did.
Yeah.
We did. My first 3 votes as a board member is I voted to replace a majority Democratic school board member with a Republican. I personally nominated to be the president of our school board a Republican and a Republican vice president. And we vote almost 9-0 on them. We work towards consensus. We've had like maybe 1 vote that was like 7-2. And it has nothing to do with party at all. I'm on a committee with 3 people who are Republican on the finance committee. And we're unanimous in all our votes. And I chair that committee. And we're unanimous all the time because we talk about the issues. We're trying to do what's in the best interest of our kids and our school district. And it really has I couldn't tell you who's an R&D from the way we vote or way we talk about the issue when we're deciding how we're going to fund. I think it's silly to put in a party hat and say, okay, now I'm a Democrat or I'm a Republican or I'm independent. I'm an American. I'm a community member, right? I want to see us do well and us collectively. I don't care what party you are from. That makes no difference whatsoever. I don't care whose idea it is. There's 2 bills on fair funding. One's Republican, one's Democrat. They have the exact same wording. That's silly. I don't care who's called a Republicrat bill. I don't care. Let's get over that and just vote for if the bill's the proper bill, I will absolutely vote for it. I don't care who sponsors it, who wrote it, whose idea it was. If it's a good idea, let's put it forward. Let's vote on it.
If fair funding were to be implemented 100%, right? There's the hold harmless clause from what I understand. So
you'd be removing the hold harmless clause, basically.
Right. So would that affect we will benefit if fair funding is implemented across the board here in Pottstown. We will benefit. Yeah. Will it negatively affect some of the other areas in the 26th district, and how will you rectify that with the constituents? Yeah.
So actually, like O&J that we said on, it's actually negatively. It would be a positive too. It's less so though. You're $13.5-14 million underfunded in Pottstown. O&J Roberts is about $1.9 million underfunded under the thing. You have Twin Valley, Coatesville, Downingtown, which are smaller pieces. It's half of Pottstown School District. It's 90% O&J Roberts School District, 40% of Twin Valley School District, and then a piece of Coatesville, Octorara, or Downingtown, just to give you an idea of the mix. Right. Very wide, discrepancies. So it's going to be neutral in some districts. It's going to be a little bit negative in others. In the 26th, I'm talking about.
Right.
But as overall for the 26th district and the kids in the 26th district, it's a net positive.
Right.
Now, there's also something going on for like Coatesville, for example, school district, which would actually be slightly negatively impacted by the fair funding formula. Okay. But at the same time, you'd have to adjust. I think you can make adjustments for that in 2 ways. One way is if we increase the funding to schools to the percentage that we used to of public education, you can sort of offset the harm or the hurt that would be in those school districts, allow them to adjust to it, right? The other thing is Coatesville's getting crushed by cyber charters. Okay. Predatory cyber charters who are taking advantage and pulling kids and money out. And there has to be, at the same time we do this, a change in funding for the cyber charters, the way we do the funding formula.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with a charter school or a cyber charter. What there's wrong is there's great cyber charters and charter schools out there.
Right, and that's the right option for
and there's
a lot of
absolutely
people.
the right option for some people. But we just got to changed the loophole that allows these for-profit predatory operators
to
take advantage.
Yeah.
And they're pulling like $9-10 million out of Coatesville, right?
Wow.
That was pre-COVID.
Wow.
Right.
With COVID, it's way worse now.
Right.
So similar, the impact in Pottstown has a similar impact in Coatesville for the cyber.
Mm-hmm.
That's got to go away. We got to fix that.
Right.
At the same time, I would say let's put these together, and again, we're not harming or hurting anybody. We're taking a kid and saying, we're going to fund, Matt, your school A, and Amy, your school B, and give you the same education opportunity. That's all we're saying. Let's make it
Right.
equitable.
Right.
Period. Why can't we do that?
Yeah.
No,
Like,
it
we
seems-
should want to see our neighboring districts be at the same even playing field.
Right.
Yeah.
So here was another thing that came in, and it goes along the lines with some of these policy issues that you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
That one, I'm going to talk positively. Once you are elected, you're going to work both within your party, within your caucus, and across the aisle to affect some of these policy decisions that you would like to see happen.
Right.
But I think there also, as a state rep, you're going to have the ability to help these communities identify and apply for grant funding,
Yes.
which goes to support what's going on in these school districts. So, for instance, here in Pottstown, the after-school program for years and years now has been directly impacted by grant funding, and those grants come out specifically through the state.
Yep.
And the question that I got, or somebody sent me a message saying, talk about the after school programs and getting some more funding into those grants, or what your feeling is on helping these kids get into these after school programs. So I'll use it for instance for some people that might not be following exactly what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
My kids, for instance, 2 of my sons participated in the environmental science club.
Mine too.
Here and Harrison, when he was at Pottstown, our collective 3 sons participated in that environmental science program, where they were given opportunities to explore environmental sciences outside of the classroom.
Mm-hmm.
That was grant funded. And those grants, that 21st century grant program, has been less and less funded over the years, which puts the burden back onto the school district.
Yep.
And onto the Foundation for Pottstown Education to go out and then fundraise to make up that grant. Do you want to talk a little bit about
Sure.
how you see your role as a state representative and helping people get that grant money?
Yeah, I'll tell you about it in a way that I think about what is the role of a state representative. And I think about it in 3 parts. There's constituent advocacy, right? The individual helping your constituent, the individual, navigate government and what resources and what you need. Then there's community advocacy, and saying what does this community here need? And Pottstown, and the way I think of the 26th district, it's sort of like 3 unique communities in one, right? It's really an amalgamation of Pennsylvania in a way, because you have Pottstown, which is has urban issues.
It's
It's
an
lower
urban
income.
environment.
It's diverse community. You got over on the eastern side of Chester County, northern Chester County, more of a bedroom, suburban, typical community.
Right.
As you go west, it's rural.
Right.
You have dairy farms and beef farms, and it's a big agricultural community with its own issues and problems.
Right.
So the advocacy and what's appropriate for those small farmers who are failing and having a problem and suffering under the changing market and the trade wars and this, and what's affecting Pottstown are different. And there's grants and opportunities. So you have to be an advocate, and you have to understand what this community needs and how do we get it. We also got to rethink our priorities of funding in general. So why is it that Pottstown kids in your school district have less after-school opportunities than kids in different funded school districts? And even within this school, how many AP courses are available? What opportunities do you have? How many clubs are resourced? How many sports programs in Pottstown versus O&J versus Radnor, right? Versus some of the larger school districts. And this is not a party issue. It's almost a geographic issue. If you look at where the funding goes, it's central and western PA are overfunded, and southeastern PA and some of the northeast of PA are overfunded, right? Or underfunded. So the money's coming, and we're paying a price. And it doesn't matter if you're Republican or Democrat or independent, you're paying that bill.
Right.
And higher taxes. And in the central part of the state where population has gone down, but the funding stayed in place,
Right.
you're getting it. And we need to rethink those priorities. And we got to say this too. So you got the after school question, but I think the same is true of before school and early education. So you look at the daycare centers and you look at childcare. It's the same needs of a community that says, how do we help, these prior to me getting into kindergarten?
Right.
How do we help fund and help communities that need it, that have, so parents can work? Because listen, there is an ROI, there is an investment. There's more opportunity if we help and make affordable and accessible childcare. Right. Before we get to school, and then the same thing.
Yeah, in Pottstown, we've done a lot of work to expand the pre-K program, the 4K program. So, in Pottstown, for instance, a kid can start school at 4 years old, and there's locations.
And peak is even younger than that, isn't it? It's 3, yeah.
So, a kid can start school at 3 or 4 years of age. Some of the pre-K kindergartens occur in the community, in the neighborhood elementary schools. So that kid's getting a head start in the school that he's going to be going to, or she, excuse me, once they get into first, second, third, and beyond.
Right.
That's huge.
That's critical.
Yeah, we've done a good job with that, I think.
I think we have. And I think other urban communities have done that too. But the same thing could be said in some of these rural areas that you're talking about too. That is a lack of access that would directly impact some of these rural areas that don't have the peak program or the 4K program. It doesn't exist in all school districts. So I think, again, just to back up what you're saying, that's another example of how this inequity not just impacts us here in the urban environments, but also in the suburban and the rural areas too.
Yeah, I mean, a good example of this is when you're thinking with community, what we as community should be investing in with our tax dollars, and what's meaningful to it. Look at the hospital that closed the maternity ward. All 4 of my children were born in Pottstown Hospital.
All of my kids were born there too.
Tara Health, they closed it down because it's about dollars.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So what are we saying to the? And that's that includes the 4.0s and the 5ers, right? And his 4.64s.
Right.
It's everybody, right? That's impacted. It's regional. That's a community resource.
Yes.
That's lost to us. That we shouldn't be going, and it shouldn't be about profit, because they didn't make enough money, right? Or the birth rate is down. So what are we going to do about that? I mean, I guess we could say, hey, let's get busy, Pottstown. And that's one approach. Not advocating that.
I think that's a great slogan, Paul. Pottstown, let's get busy.
Right? Let's get the maternity ward back. But in all seriousness, it's about, because we vote and we don't look at community health care and access to community. Because guess what? It's still going to cost this community in Pennsylvania to go out and travel and not have a maternity ward here. It's going to cost us. It's just going to cost us in a different way. And it's still going to be the same dollars. It's just going to be distributed differently where those dollars come from and how we pay for it. If we don't have access to affordable health care and community resources for health care, those costs will be borne by Pennsylvanians.
Right.
Because eventually it's going to end up in an emergency room. It's going to be driven here. It's going to be there, and it's going to be more expensive.
Right.
Later
Prevention.
on, not having that access to that health care than it is if we paid it now.
Right.
Same with education. If we don't educate our kids, it's going to cost us later.
Pay for it down the line.
We will pay for it.
Yeah.
And it's cheaper to get them early to pay for it later.
Sure.
Right.
It's like preventative care. We've got a bunch of questions and comments here if we want to just scroll through.
Hopefully it's not on the Get Busy Pottstown logo.
Deb Penrod wants to know if independents can be on a school board. I don't know, Deb. Can independents be on a school board?
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, you just
if you
have
get
to-
elected.
Right.
I think you just have to have, well, either way on the school board, at least in Pottstown, you've got to have Democrats and Republicans sign your,
If you're in a primary.
right.
So what it is in Pennsylvania, there's two positions, school board and judges, where technically you're not supposed to be political. So you, in the primary, you can run for both the Republican and Democratic,
Right.
or any party, Green Party, whatever it is, in the primary. And to get on the primary ballot, you have to get, to get on a Republican ballot, you have to get Republicans to sign. Democrats, you have to get Democrats to sign. You could.
You cross-file. Isn't that what it's called?
It's called cross-filing.
Yeah.
You could go to the general election with enough as an independent.
Right.
Right. And but it's rare someone gets on, because without the party's endorsement, right, and the party and the committee people in those parties, support their endorsed candidates, which through the primary, it's what they do. So yeah, and there's people who cross-filed and have been elected by both and have been endorsed by both parties, and they generally get elected, right, because you've made it through in the primary. And just, example, like I came very close to doing that in O&J. I was at the sixth. There's 17 people ran for school board in the primary. It was
Wow.
pretty large race. Now I had the most votes of anybody, but I had just missed getting through on both sides of the ballot there. So again, I had support across independents and Republicans and Democrats, because I wasn't approaching this as a party person.
Politically,
again, it doesn't really matter about party. What matters is community, people. You should be electing. I believe we should be electing people,
Right.
not parties.
Right.
Right. So
We've
there's
got-
your answer, Deb Penrod. Are you going to run for school board?
Yeah, you can do it. Yeah,
Deb-
absolutely.
I'd
Deb
like to
Pen-
see that. She
Deb
loves
Penrod
children.
was saying that Paul should just go right for Senate. She wants to see him run
Just
for
go right
Senate.
there.
So
Yeah, Toomey said he's retiring, right?
Right.
So there you go.
Let's-
in
Yeah.
2 years, right?
So Deb, I put it up. I put the ball back in Deb's court, and I asked her if she's going to be your campaign manager for your Senate run. So I mean, retired attorney. So
Yeah.
she's got some
I'm
of the
far
legal
from.
stuff down.
I'm a school board member. That was my first election, so
Right.
let's. And I'm far from. This is a.
And if you're
you know.
looking for somebody outspoken, she's your gal. She's
I've
your
met.
gal,
It's
right?
funny. I've met a lot of outspoken people since I've
yeah.
dipped my toe in politics.
Right.
Sure.
Yeah,
Yes, yes.
I'm sure.
So
All right.
I've
Here's
been given a
another
lot of
thing.
advice.
Here's another thing that we've talked about extensively on the show, and when I was talking to Jonas, who's another one of your campaign staffers,
Yep.
we wanted to spend some time talking about environment
Yeah.
and how environment impacts healthcare. I think you brought that in when we talked about I was not aware of those numbers. The staggering, the lead
staggering.
and the emissions.
Yep.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And you have a background in environmental science. You currently
I own, yeah.
You own a company that does environmental testing.
That's correct. Yeah. So I own Pace Environmental. So we're a Mid-Atlantic testing company, and what we do is we test what as greenhouse gases.
Okay.
So those emissions that go up out of smokestacks from power companies or chemical plants or
Landfills.
We test landfills, even bakeries, coffee roasters. So when you get big, I can come test you. It's about what's going out under a permit for DEP and EPA, and how do we control those things. But what you see is, we have some of the worst air quality in southeastern Pennsylvania in the country. Chester County, which everybody says, oh yeah, you live over in Chester County. It's ranked 47th on the state in the country in air
geez.
quality, because we're dense, populated. We have a lot of combustion that comes up,
Right.
Right.
and it's ozone. In communities, and we talk about equity and racial equity. Let's talk about for a second, where communities of color have more asthma and more lung because of particulate matter. That's because they tend to live in a build, whether it's power plants or chemical plants or industrial, where we have industrial release and emissions. That affects people's health.
Yes.
It affects their lungs. And we have, communities like Pottstown, for example, has a higher asthma rate than does a communities 10 miles south of us, right? And we got to be aware of this, and we got to think about we deserved clean air and clean water, and that's infrastructure, and it's
Right.
investment, and it's an enforcement. It's accountability for what we're putting out into the atmosphere and knowing what it is and how much is released. And there's mechanisms to control this. We can build industry and produce goods and have power, and we can do it cleaner and safer than we're doing it. We just got to be willing to hold folks accountable. And let's let these innovators win. I mean, the most jobs being created right now in the industries and power are green energy jobs.
Right.
Why is Pennsylvania incenting fossil fuel, giving a tax break, $650 million tax break that we gave fossil fuel industry? Why not invest that in communities like Pottstown or
Right.
education?
I
don't
have
understand that.
I'm an outdoorsman. I spent a lot of time outdoors, fishing, hunting, camping, hiking, the whole 9 yards. And what has always bothered me about Pennsylvania's approach, I've seen fracking. I've been next to the wells. They happen in areas where I go and recreate. Under previous administrations, we were not taxing that extraction. I don't think that we can get away from saying we're just not going to do it. But if we are going to do it, why aren't, like just you're saying,
Yeah.
if we're going to do it, why aren't we regulating it to make it safe for everybody? And why aren't we taxing it so that we can use those tax dollars and direct them into areas where we need help? For instance, education and infrastructure.
Yeah, exactly
Right.
where you do it, and enforcement of environmental. Let's where would the extraction tax go? Well, that's what we need to say. Perfect place to put it: education
Right.
and
Right.
infrastructure. That's exactly where that should go. And why was it blocked? And this was bipartisan, by the way. It's not Republican, Democrat. When we joined the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative, which is a market-driven approach to lowering greenhouse gas emissions, basically like a cap-and-trade program that 7 other states in the Northeast region do. It's accelerated their reduction in greenhouse gases, has economic benefit, and has created jobs. Why are we listening to lobbyists and propping up coal and propping up heavy-duty pollution when we should be in the greenhouse gas unit and letting the free market lower our emissions, letting the free market, putting market mechanisms to do that? It's worked. It's not even we're experimenting. We can go and look and see.
Look at other models.
It's had
Right.
economic, and we can join them. And that's something that we should do, right? Because it's going to help our economy. It's going to help us get to a cleaner air.
Which will trickle down to
Which-
the overall health of our population,
Yeah.
which trickles down to health care. And it's a win-win-win.
Yeah, too many people say these problems are too big. You can't solve it overnight. Well, it's true.
Right.
You can't solve it overnight, but we got to start.
So you start chipping away
We're
at
not
it.
going to solve education funding overnight. We're
No.
not going to magically wave a wand and it's going to turn around tomorrow.
Right.
But if we don't start down the path, you're not going to get
it's not
there. It's
gonna
like
get
the old
started.
saying, how to eat an elephant.
One bite
One
Yeah,
at
one
a
bite at
time.
a time.
Yep.
Exactly.
Well, let's just start.
So then also along the lines of the environment, and again, we're hitting a lot of different topics that have been talked about over the past, I don't know how many episodes of Porchcast we have now, probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 100 different episodes. And we've talked about every single one of these issues in one way, shape, or form. Not always heavy-duty political discussions, but it's what people are into, especially now that we're all trying to recreate outdoors more. And we're trying to go out into the nature so that we can maintain our social distancing and get some peace from some of the fray, the ruckus that is going on in our political discourse.
There's stuff going on in our political discourse.
Yeah, in case you didn't know.
Yeah.
funny,
funny.
funny shit. But I think the point I'm trying to make is, along with the environmental control, the environmental policy, and the decision making, right here in this area, we have some great places to recreate. We talk about Memorial Park here in Pottstown. We talk about the Schuylkill River Trail.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
I go over to French Creek State Park on a regular basis and visit some of the other state parks that are in our neighborhoods. We have state game lands. We have fish and boat commission ramps, all within this 26th district. Those are the passive and active recreation initiatives that, again, the state, as a state representative, when you're elected, you're going to have some input and some say over how those funds get allotted. And do you have, what's your feeling or what's your policy or what's your position on supporting this outdoor recreation that, let's face it, more and more of us are taking a part of now.
Yeah. I mean, the Rails to Trails has been one of the most successful, best things I've ever seen, us do as a government here. How many people take advantage of that all the time?
Right.
There's other movements too to connect trails, like, you mentioned French Creek. I ride my mountain bike all the time. I've been to Blue Marsh and Marsh Creek and riding there and hiking there. And I do a lot of the same things you do, Matt. And I've, run the 5Ks here starting at the Montco here, and then the 5Ks
The Funky
that go
Santa.
Yeah, so Schuylkill River Trail is awesome.
Oh, it's such a great
It's
resource
a great
that we have.
resource.
It's for here, we've got the best of both worlds because
and
we
we-
live urban, but we've got these
Right, and you
outdoor
have, and you're
recreation.
right here, right,
Yeah.
and you got the Schuylkill River right here, which there's a ton of stuff. We gotta take care of it, but you see, when we build it, we use it, right? People want to go out and ride their bike and walk, and I walk my dog, my wife and I, every day, and we go to Warwick Park and we'll walk through there, and we go to French Creek or St. Pete's, and we'll get a coffee and take the dogs out there. These are community resources that we gotta take care of, right? This is what it means to live in a community and take care of a community, right? So yeah, I believe we should be building things like the Schuylkill River Trail. We should be protecting state game land, right? We should be protecting open space. The character of our community is at stake if we don't protect. Now, if we don't do something about these farms that I mentioned in Western, they're going to disappear.
Right.
These 5 generations, because they're small businesses, and they're going to disappear. And you know what's going to replace them? Development.
Development.
Right?
Right.
Just suburban sprawl. The character of our community is going to go away if we don't do something to protect them. If we don't invest in Pottstown. Pottstown's a tremendous, great. I mean, I remember, I grew up here, right? So I was cruising, High Street
Yeah.
in Pottstown. That was what you did.
Yeah.
Up
Yeah,
and
that's
down
what there
for
was to
whatever,
do,
that was
period.
what there was to do. Before there was back in parking.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I won't bring up this story, but like that's what we did. Like there's something to that, and like where is that? And I love, going out in the open. You mentioned the open air earlier. Some of the benefit of COVID is that we've had to experiment and get a little bit more as a community together.
Yes.
Right, and stay a little bit. That's the good part. What we need to do post COVID is stay
to hang on to the good parts
close,
of it. Yeah.
Close the streets down and put the chairs out.
Right.
Right.
And allow the community to gather. It doesn't have to be all a highway all the time.
Right.
It doesn't have to be transit. We don't have to leave Pottstown to go out.
Yeah. We
should
never do
build
anyway.
It here. It's here.
And in a way, I think by doing those things, and I'm going to try to circle back to
get
a
me
question.
back on track.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
going to try to circle back to a question that was posed by Pat Dillon, who is asking what can we do to protect clean water, or what will you do to protect clean water? And I think one of the things you're just saying is by supporting people's ability to recreate locally, by supporting communities' ability to, let's say, shut down streets to have a street festival, we're lowering emissions there.
Yeah.
You've talked about enforcement of clean air and clean water policy and law, really. Law enforcement in
That
those
is law
realms.
enforcement.
That's
Yeah.
law enforcement.
We have good laws on the books, and listen, I because I do this for a living, I have in the weeds knowledge of DEP and EPA regulations, and I see,
Right.
and you can work with industry to clean stuff up. You know what industry needs to make investments? They need to understand what is expected in the long term so they can make these capital projects to say it. So if we're not bouncing back and forth or not making quite, methane gas has been something that's been out there. It affects fracking. It's something that the EPA under
Farms.
the
It's
stuff,
it's a farm issue.
farm issue.
Yeah.
If we just say, here's what it is, period, and here's what we're going to do to enforce it. Now, companies are free to go, okay, now I understand it.
Okay, here's the
I can
rules
make
that
the
we have to
investment.
Here's a
abide by,
standard.
and
Here's the
here's what we
standard.
have to
Here's
do.
what I have to
All right,
do to
let's
do
figure
that.
out how to work
If-
within it.
If I do and implement the regional greenhouse gas initiative, and I'll get Pat's question on water specifically, but this is air. But it's the same holds true. We're going to say to companies, you have a financial incentive to lower your emissions. You get to take that off your taxes if you lower your emissions. So I can invest money now because I have a direct return on investment. Not only am I doing great by the community and great for the environment, but I get real dollars out of that by lowering my emissions. Same with clean water. Our rivers and streams, it's like I was just out, and like I said, I walk along French Creek all the time, right,
Okay.
with the dogs. And we're just out there. I'm like, not only is French Creek a great place to go and, walk the dogs or go fishing because they stock it with trout, it's also a source of drinking water for our communities down the stream.
And listen, let's not get it twisted. Parts of French Creek are clean enough that we have reproducing populations of trout
Yep.
in French Creek because of some of the work we've already done
Yep.
to protect that water.
And we need to continue to do that. Farms have a big, because they release the nitrogen, and we got to and have runoff.
And runoff.
Right? But at the same time, we're penalizing these farmers. We should be incenting them to buffer those streams with building,
The riparian
the
buffer.
right amount of, trees and shrubs and things that absorb runoff, so you don't have it get into our waterways and our streams.
Right.
We should be careful where we develop. If it impacts a waterway, we should be assessing it. And infrastructure, specifically with clean water, like Pottstown, this community needs investment in infrastructure. We should be looking at that and saying there's a way to do it to provide clean water to every single community across, and not just Pottstown, across Pennsylvania.
Right.
Right? We have old infrastructure, and we've not taken care of it. Let's take care of it. Let's stop worrying about Wall Street.
Right.
They'll take care of themselves.
Right.
Let's talk about taking care of Main Street, because I'm telling you, you take care of Main Street, you're taking care of families.
Yeah.
You're taking care of the health of families.
Right. I mean,
If we do that.
that's serious quality of life. Like, it affects everybody on a daily basis. These are the issues that affect us on a daily basis that we care about.
Yeah.
Wall
So
Street's gonna
there's
do just fine.
there's another follow-up question, and I think goes along with what are your plans to support small business? And I think in a lot of ways you've covered that, but
Sure.
if I could just jog your memory, do you think that there's anything specific that pops into your mind about a policy or a procedure that you'd like to see implemented that would help small businesses get established?
Yeah, so there's two things, and specifically with COVID, it's one of the hardest things hit is small business, right? So the PPP loans, for example, were a great start, but they're not everything. So that was a hammer, and now we need a scalpel, and we need to target specific industries, because you look at PPP loans, like a company like mine, environmental testing. Okay, I'm not affected from COVID the same way a bar or a restaurant is. So I don't have to reduce the population in my market by 25, 50%.
Right.
Right? So, it was great that PPP loan. It bridged me while we were slow and we had, a downturn. So it's awesome. But now we look at restaurants and bars and things that are daycare centers, right?
Yeah.
That have a third of their amount. We can't have these things. These are community supports. We want these businesses to survive.
Well, in daycare centers, that you mentioned that, the changes in daycare centers then affects other businesses.
Right.
Because those employees can't go to work in the same way that they were before. I mean, that's impacted our business with our employees that have young children, that the capacity is reduced, but the cost for the daycare has gone up because
Right.
they've had to reduce their capacity. It's
Just like
insane.
renters and landlords, like you want rent relief because we're laying off all these people losing their jobs, and then right away we're losing their health care, and now you're house insecure, you're housing insecure. We have to help small businesses recover. So landlords that are impacted by this, we got to give them targeted stuff. Restaurants, those businesses most impacted. So we got to be more thoughtful now on how we get grants, loans, and liquidity into small businesses. Enough with giving $650 million tax breaks to large companies. Enough with giving big tax breaks. Amazon delivers to my house all the time with whatever stuff you order.
Mm-hmm.
From my estimation, not one of those packages was delivered over a road that was paid for by Pennsylvania taxpayers, and they don't pay any tax in Pennsylvania.
Right.
But every single one of their trucks drives on a Pennsylvania road that you and I paid for.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Drives over
You
a
as
bridge.
a local plumber or you pay tax to fix those roads. Every citizen here does. We're just asking for those big corporations to close the loopholes so they pay that fair share.
Right.
And then for small business, like the waiver program came out, and this is where I disagreed with the governor and, if you want to call it party stuff, but they had individual waivers instead of industry-specific waivers.
Mm-hmm.
So this company, Home Depot could open,
Right.
but the local garden center couldn't.
Good.
I'm telling you, Home Depot has a lot more people going through it than that local garden center, and the local garden center's outside.
Right.
Tell me how that worked.
Right.
It did.
Didn't.
So I think you need business people who understand small business to say, let's be reasonable and put reasonable protections in place, and let's have a way that we can get back to work. Let's have a way that we can provide liquidity. And if I'm going to target grants for small business, we're going to target them for small businesses that affect a community, like daycares, right? Because the implication if those daycares go and fail affects the entire community.
Yes.
Now mom and dad can't get to work, which affects the businesses that they do. Which, guess what? If they're not working, are they going to the local restaurant and ordering out? Are they using the local businesses?
Right.
There's a domino effect here.
Yep.
It's a short term. COVID's going to go away at some point. We're going to solve it at some point. We got to get from here to there. And small businesses are what's going to make us come back. They're going to be the first to hire. They're going to make our communities thrive.
Right.
So that's where we got to be targeted, and we got to be industry specific for what those solutions are. So
Right.
what affects a restaurant's different than what affects a real estate agent.
Right.
Right. So
And I'll make a couple of points, and it's going to tie together a couple of things that you've said, and it's going to answer some of the follow-up questions that we're getting. And I think you've said it. I just want to kind of, as best I can, consolidate it. We're paying for this infrastructure, and we're paying for this plans by reallocating the spending that we're already doing.
Yeah.
We're just trying to do it in a smarter, more pinpointed way that affects a broader swath of the population than just playing favorites to big industry and big corporations. Is that a fair summary?
For instance, I would not have, be very specific. I would not have voted to give a $650 million tax break to, giant corporations for fossil fuel.
Right.
I would rather have seen that money gone to help small businesses and education.
Right.
That's where I would like to see that same dollars.
Right.
Not saying add revenue, not saying add tax. Take the same pie. Let's not change the size of the pie.
Right.
Let's just slice
just
the
cut
pie
different.
differently. That's all.
That's a conversation that I have consistently with people across the board, regardless of political spectrum. Because the first thing is, well, how are we going to pay for this? We're already paying for it.
Yeah.
We're already paying billions and trillions of dollars for it. All people like you, people like me, people like Amy, a lot of the people that watch the show, all we're saying is, just like you said it, and you said it best, all we're asking is to divide the pie up in a more fair and equitable way for the people lower down on the rung, right? We the people, should be getting a bigger slice of the pie than corporation X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
To me, it makes sense.
That's all we're saying. And it's there's a return on it. And even in making investments in businesses. Like there's a I come from private equity back. If you look at my resume, you would probably go, he's a Democrat. Like what?
Right.
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 You know, I work for private equity. I was a CEO
No, I get
of
I
a
get the
couple
same thing
companies.
because I
you know?
work in real estate, which
Yeah.
is a 100% capital-driven market.
Right.
Period.
Yeah.
And people are always like, "Oh, well, you must be a Republican." I'm not.
Yeah, I'm not, and I'm not, and I'm economically, economically, I'm conservative, in a way, but I understand where investment works, and I don't get why we can't figure out we're taking all these dollars in, and we can't say, let's give it back into our communities where we get a return on that investment. I was talking to the guys that run the Franklin Invest Technology Fund, which is a fund that sponsors technology companies in Pennsylvania and new technologies, right? There's 4 regions, and it's a private-public partnership. So Pennsylvania funds part of this. So the one in Philadelphia, they have 260 companies that they've invested in. And they get about $7 or $8 million a year from, the state to help do this. And now they've been cut dramatically. They did it, and now they've taken two companies this year public. So it's companies that were built here,
Right.
that have hundreds of employees now. The analysis is for every dollar invested, $7 is returned to Pennsylvania. So you want to talk about a financial impact?
Yeah.
So these startups that get
I
a
know
half
that
a
you're
million
math
or $1
whiz.
million,
That's really good.
That's more than half.
That's really good.
It's more than half.
That's a very
if
good
you
ROI.
give one thing and you get seven things back, that's more than half.
That's
that's
great.
more. Right?
Well over half.
Yeah.
So there's venture capital investment, right? And there's where those folks are Pennsylvanians getting those jobs. That's those companies that just went public, right? Those are entrepreneurs that are going to get very wealthy.
Yeah.
But guess what? They're employing hundreds and hundreds of people right here in this community.
Right.
That's the kind of stuff.
So we're not talking about when
can
we talk
do.
about the pie. We're not talking about handouts.
No.
We're talking about
No.
investments.
You're talking about investment, and you
We're
need to
talking about
expect,
investments. Yes.
like, infrastructure's an investment. If you have clean water in a community, right, you're going to attract businesses, you're going to attract people, you're going to raise property values.
And if your
You
water,
can't brew-
if your
you
water
can't
is
brew
clean,
that Schuylkill
your beer's
IPA
gonna-
with dirty water.
yeah, your beer is going to be
Period.
better if your water is cleaner.
Right. People are happy.
Yeah.
Maternity rates will go up, and Tower Health
Yes.
will open it back up.
See?
See, it all
Get busy,
comes back
Pennsylvania.
now to Pottstown
Get
getting
busy.
Totally going to get shot for this.
So listen, we're at an hour 15.
Yeah.
We've covered a lot of territory. I know that Amy has some announcements that she wants to make,
Yeah.
and there's some folks that are relying on our show to bring them news. You've brought a crap ton of news. I mean,
Yes.
I can't think of. We've covered the gamut, and just in your appearance, honest to God, we have tied together just about every major issue that we've talked about on Porchcast in one way, shape, or form. So it's been good to have you here. It's been good to hear what your plans and policies are, or what they will be when you are elected. And I can't thank you enough for coming on the show, man. And I'm glad that we were able to provide you with a platform to get that message out. And I will say this. I'm going to say it one more time to the people watching at home, listening at home. Please share this episode. Leave a comment. Like this episode. Help us get Paul's message out.
Yep.
It's great that you tuned in. It's great that you're watching. But if you want to help us spread the message, we need those likes. We need those shares. We need those comments. Help Paul. Help Porchcast Pottstown. Help us spread the word about all the great things that are happening here, not just in Pottstown, but in the 26th district in general.
And there are a lot of really great things happening. And I want to thank you for inviting me on your show. And thank you for the love you give me. Because I was watching your podcast when you guys, and I think you were talking about fair funding and equity. It kind of mentioned me, and I was like, oh.
Yeah, I
So-
remember.
so thank you
No,
for
I
that.
remember that. I remember that episode. You got a mosquito right there, and I want to tell you about other side.
The side?
You got it.
It's not
Anyway.
a fly.
It's
on
not
my
a
head.
fly
it's not
on
a
your
fly.
head, no.
Okay, because
It's a mosquito. That's the dangers
I
of
just
doing
wanted to let you know.
doing the outdoor
But
show.
yeah, I remember that episode. We were specifically. It was the episode that we had Joe Rusevich from the Foundation for Pottstown Education on, and we were talking about Chromebooks and funding
Yes,
for the
yes.
Chromebooks
Yep.
and funding for after-school programs, which the foundation does a lot of.
Yep.
And I did mention that you are the fair funding candidate. If you want to get behind a candidate who's into fair funding, you've made that extremely clear. I think you've broke it down for people
Right.
into some really elementary terms. If that's a message or if that's a platform that you want to get behind, Paul Friel is your man.
That's
Yeah,
I think I'm a single issue voter in this particular race. I'm a single issue voter, and fair funding
Equity
is
in
it for me.
education is it's equity. It starts here, right? It's
It's-
foundational to
it-
what we do,
it
and
just trickles out
it's
to
social
absolutely
justice
everything.
equity
Yeah.
extends from it. It's the same, it's a different side of the same coin, right? And we just have to be, we got to be investing in our kids, in our future, and
Right.
you
They're the ones that are going to be taking care of us when we're old.
yeah, it's
Well,
just
it
the
makes us-
right thing to do.
Older, I
Right.
should say older. Yeah.
Older.
Yeah,
So we did have a lot of comments. We didn't quite get to address all of them, but thank you, Heather Moyer Daly and Jordan Schick. Paul, I don't know if you'll have a chance to go back after the show and maybe address some of these directly. Jordan Schick asked, how do you encourage families to make the best choice for them when it comes to education, public, private, or charter? And that's a big question that's really specific to each family and each child's needs. So if you want to
if people want to get me after or hit me on Facebook or you can contact it if you go to paulfriel.com or go to the @Paul for PA, either place, we respond and I respond to
Right.
these things, and I'll and if you want it to be a messenger on the side, that's fine too. You can reach out that way, and I'll chat you aside if you don't want to put it out to the entire
Right.
world.
Yeah, so thank you.
You know.
These are a lot of names that are not familiar to the show, so thank you to everybody for watching, and we hope that you tune back in. Can I do announcements?
Yeah, so I just real quick,
Yeah.
Paul Friel for PA is your Facebook page.
Yep.
That's right.
That's right.
You have a website, I'm sure.
Yep, Paul. It's just paulfriel.com. I know it's really original. The marketing thought that
Keep
went in
it
there.
simple, stupid.
Yeah, it's,
Right. Pretty easy.
just paulfriel.com.
Yep.
Just go there. And
So if there's something that we didn't cover, just like Amy's saying, hit up one of those sites. You can also go back onto the comments on the show, and those are open. I leave those open. So if Paul or a member of your campaign wants to hit the comment section later, you can answer some questions in the comment show after the show.
we can do that.
And then I did stream this to YouTube at Porchcast Pottstown. From there, I'll be able to send you an MP4, a video link to the show itself. You can take that data and do whatever you need to do with it from a campaign perspective. I'll get that over to your people within the next day or two.
I appreciate that. And, again, thanks again. And
Yeah.
I just leave you
Great.
this one thought. The most important thing that we can do right now, however you're thinking about and whoever you vote for, vote.
Right.
So show up. If you show up, that is where your power is.
Right.
That is the only place it is.
It's a privilege that a lot of people fought and died for, and so for me especially as a woman, I'm like every time I vote, I feel really privileged that I have the honor and the responsibility to vote.
Yeah, I voted every election since I was 18 years old, and
Me too.
Yeah,
I just feel like
to caucus.
you,
my
you
first-
have
my
you
first
have to
election.
do that. My dad was a Marine, and he kind of drilled in that to me.
Yeah, yeah, you
I
have
just
to.
think you just that's where the power is.
It's
right?
our it's
And-
it's one of our 3 civic duties.
That's right.
Which we know: voting, census, jury duty.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
We've talked about
And
that.
wearing your mask. We
And wearing
added
your
a
mask.
fourth one
That's
on
our fourth
Porchcast.
civic
And that
duty.
census, they've extended that deadline, so
Yes.
keep
Have
doing
it.
the census,
Yes.
right?
And
Because
keep
that's where
encouraging
money
your friends and neighbors.
comes. And especially Pottstown, fill out
Yeah.
that census form.
Yeah. Make
You
sure
know?
you click send.
Yes.
I didn't click send.
Right.
Wow.
And I got an update saying that I didn't
You
finish
need to press
it.
the button.
So I did.
Yeah.
I'm registered.
So you're now officially because you
Yeah.
weren't there before.
You
We
I
don't
count,
wasn't
count you.
now you count.
Now you count.
Census.gov. It's really easy. It takes less
Takes
than 5
5
minutes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right,
Really
Amy.
important.
All
Thank
right,
you.
so more love for the pub. Thank you for the tasty beverages. I didn't even get to one of the canned cocktails. I'm going to take that home with me. We're enjoying the Schuylkill IPA and the Faber Seltzer, and they also have canned cocktails. I also want to share that Adam Burke is going to be on WFMZ tomorrow morning. That's Channel 69 News. He will be on tomorrow at 7:50, 8:20, and 8:50. So tune into FMZ at those times to see our friend Adam Burke, and they will be doing breakfast at the pub tomorrow morning. I think Jess said she's opening around 8 o'clock to serve breakfast down there, and she will also have some coffee by coffeesmith.coffee down there at the pub. So go check that out. And they have a new brewer also down at the pub. So you might want to check out, if you're a beer kind of guy or gal, check out some of their new brews. Yeah, okay. That's a good endorsement from Kev,
Coffee
'cause he
Smith
a
is
beer-
proudly endorsing the new work of the new brewer at Pottstown United Brewing
Yes,
Company. Now,
so-
Coffee Smith, give us your update. You're going to be putting a nitro cold brew on tap at which fine local establishment?
Yeah.
JJ Radigan's. Go check out coffeesmith.coffee and his nitro-powered cold brew.
That sounds like extra souped up.
The
Yeah.
official coffee of the Paul for PA campaign.
Oh, there you go.
There you go.
Excellent.
You heard it here first.
go.
Fueled by
And if we want
Coffee
to make
Smith.
a Paul for PA,
That's breaking
IPA,
news.
We could do that as
Breaking-
well.
breaking news on
Coffee
Porchcast. Breaking
Smith
news
is
on
now the
Porchcast.
official coffee.
Also, the stout that I'll be releasing tomorrow also has Coffee Smith coffee.
Oh, so you
Ooh.
can
There you
get
go. So
drunk
the
A
Paul
and
could be
coffee
the
stout.
official beer
And
stout
zippity.
of the Paul for PA campaign.
Also, a grind restaurant up in Boyertown is
Oh.
serving Coffee Smith coffee.
We just were talking about them last week with their meatballs.
And I talked about grind on my other cast,
Yeah.
the cast at Glocker. We talked about grind. So
Yeah.
I'll bring it down one more time. Coffeesmith.coffee. Check out his coffee-inspired drinks at JJ Radigan's, Pottstown United Brewing Company,
and at Grumpy's.
Grumpy's,
Cold brew. Yeah.
and The Grind,
Right.
in
Excellent. Way
Boyertown.
to go. Excellent. Very happy for you.
I feel like we've spun.
Yeah,
I feel like
just
we've
getting
spun off a
started.
sequel.
Paul-
We've spun. We
Right.
spun off a
I
sequel
know,
for
it's like Happy
Porchcast.
Days and Mork and Mindy. We spun them off.
Coffee talk
Some of
coming
you might have
to
forgotten
you.
that Mork and Mindy was a spin-off from Happy Days, but it was.
Oh yes,
Yeah. All right. So, Paul, we didn't even get to talk about all your awesome direct mail. I've been enjoying it a lot. So, okay, a few announcements. There is a thing going on at the Carousel, October 17th from 4 to 8. They are having food and Nate's Waffles, authentic Belgian waffles with ice cream and hot apple cider. That sounds delicious.
Nice.
The mini golf will be open. They're going to have caricatures. They're opening up their big doors to get some more airflow in there.
Okay.
Masks, of course, are required, but they're going to open it up to just give a little bit more safety there. So check out our friends
That was a grant-funded initiative,
at the
partially.
I want
Carousel.
a caricature with the mask. So.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, you can get your free
With Paul
COVID
Friel logo right on
There
it.
you go.
free COVID Halloween costume caricatures by our friend Alan McBain. Speaking of lead, we talked about lead and the lead issues and things here in Pottstown because we've got older homes. There is a new lead abatement program in Montgomery County. So look, I'm doing double duty, showing the Wolf Baldwin logo on the back of my printout. So there is, you must own or rent a home in Pottstown Borough and a child under 6 living there or regularly visiting, or if you are pregnant, if your home was built before 1978 and your household income falls within these categories here, there is a free lead abatement program, and this is, you can go to the montcopa.org website and just search on lead abatement. So that is something, lead and healthy homes program.
I've been on that Montco PA or Montco.org website multiple times. It's the county's official
Yep.
website. It's super easy to navigate.
It's a really well done site. It really
You
is.
can search right in there, and it'll take you to voting. It'll take you to housing. It'll take you to just about anything you want to learn about parks, recreation, historical sites. Super easy to navigate. Go check that out.
Yeah. So
it's easy to do.
Yep. So if your house was built before 1978 and you would like to have it tested for lead paint, they will send a certified inspector out to do that and then help you with the abatement. So that is a county-run program that just came out. Spread the warmth. Winter coats available for kids at the Pottstown Y. This is on October 24th from
I need
10
a coat now, man.
to
I'm getting
12.
a little
I know,
chilly.
it's a
Yeah,
little
you
chilly.
went with the
right?
T-shirt tonight. That's a little.
I have another beer. You'll warm up.
Yeah.
So they are giving out
Yeah, so-
new winter coats for kids that need them at the YMCA in
They'll
Pottstown
still hear it.
on the 24th from 10 to 2. One winter
If you
coat
just
per
wanna
child.
expand up Paul's, campaign,
So check
what
that
is
out. Uh-oh, the camera died.
Camera died,
Camera
folks.
died. All right, I'm wrapping
However, no,
Oh, okay.
they'll still hear us.
it up. Okay, great.
So they can listen
All right.
to the news at the end of the
garden
show.
cleanup event at the Mosaic Permaculture Garden at the corner of Walnut and Charlotte. That is Saturday, October 17th from 8 to 12. So our friends at Mosaic are looking for some volunteers to help clean up the permaculture garden on the 17th. And this Saturday, October 10th, there is a Pottstown Voter Registration and Resource Day that is presented by the NAACP and the YWCA Tri-County area. That is from 12 to 4 on October 10th down at Smith Family Plaza, our lovely plaza. There is a food distribution event. You can register to vote. You're bumping up against the deadline, folks. So if any Porchtonian is watching and they're not registered, I can't believe they wouldn't be.
That's
but
the NAACP and the
YW.
YWCA event at
Yep.
Smith Family Plaza.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's register to vote. Free
that's
food
this
distribution.
Saturday.
There's also legal aid is going to be there.
Yes.
If you've got some legal issues to discuss.
Record
There's
expungement.
Record and expungement opportunities. So legal aid
Might
can
want to
help
hit that
you.
with a couple of flyers, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, we're gonna. Oh yeah. No, we'll be there, Matt. That's
Yeah.
what we're going for. Okay.
Yeah.
Felony-friendly employment opportunities, mental health support, addiction support, housing information, and more. These are all really, really great resources for our community. So go check out that event. Our friends at the NAACP and the YWCA
And
presenting
the
that.
point that I made too, as far as that record expungement goes,
Mm-hmm.
like we now have medical marijuana in Pennsylvania. So
Right.
Yeah.
to some extent, Pennsylvania is marijuana is legal to some extent.
To some
in
extent,
Pennsylvania,
right.
Right. If you have an old possession of
An old, like,
marijuana
a little
arrest on
eighth
your
of a
record,
whatever.
now's
Yeah.
an easier time than ever to get rid of that thing.
Yep.
Now, if you got arrested for some kind of felony distribution of drugs for marijuana or something, I don't know.
We're
if-
not talking about like,
I don't know, but there
Yeah.
might be a way. But if you have some kind of arrest for simple possession of marijuana, and marijuana is now legal in Pennsylvania,
Right.
there's
Yeah.
going to be a way for you to get rid of get that gone.
Yeah,
And I
Get
think
it
that's
off
going
your
to
record.
keep evolving, and the legalization, when you have adult use legalization, part of that has to be the expungement,
Yeah.
automatic
Basically.
Yeah.
expungement of these small, petty things that just sit and follow people that
Yeah.
really just shouldn't.
No.
Right.
We
So
gotta
there's
do better.
another Paul Friel platform
Yep.
campaign right there, platform initiative.
Excellent. Get busy, Pottstown.
Get busy.
Oh God, yeah, that's gonna be
It's
what
stuck
comes
now.
out.
Guess
Get
what?
busy fast.
We on Porchcast. We're like a dog with a dirty
Yeah,
sock.
I
We don't
can
let it
see
go.
how you guys
we
are
just
going here,
grab
yeah.
right onto it.
So, what else you got for
That's
news?
it. That's all my announcements.
All right, so I'm going to get myself in a lot of trouble
Okay.
with the ladies at the office.
Please do.
If I don't mention the fall frolic.
Mm-hmm.
Tomorrow's the last day to complete the fall frolic. So come up to Glocker Realty and Insurance, pick up your game card. There's 6 businesses that you can travel around to in the borough of Boyertown. Get your stamp, get it done, and drop that completed stamp off, or get as many stamps in as you can so that you can win a prize. There's 3. There is a gift certificate for Grind in one of the baskets. There's
Ooh.
3 baskets.
Ooh.
Each basket is worth over $100. All you have to do is pick up a game card, walk around Boyertown, and get some stamps, and you entered to win one of 3 gift baskets worth over $100.
So get
There's
your,
a
get
50.
your passport. Go up to Boyertown.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you'll pick up your Boyertown passport, get it stamped, and there's a $50 gift certificate to Grind in one of those gift baskets. And you could Kev wants you to buy $50 worth of Coffee Smith coffee.
I'll buy $50 worth of meatballs, or maybe $25
I'm going for
worth
the
of
Paul
coffee.
for PA IPA.
Right.
That'll be coming out.
Oh, that's right. Hey, if anybody's listening, if we got any brewers out
Yeah.
there,
Yeah.
Paul's looking for a flagship beer for his campaign.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see if we
Alright.
can make Porchcast make that happen.
We are making connections.
That's right.
All right.
Anything else, man?
That's all I got. That's all I
All
got.
right, I'm going to break it down. Thanks for
Yeah.
hanging in there with us. The show is nothing without your support. I keep saying that, and I'm going to keep saying it, keep saying it, keep saying it. On Tuesday coming up, we're going to have another show, 5 to 6, Tuesdays and Thursdays. We're going to have somebody in from the cluster talking about their Gotta Have Heart fundraiser, which
is
is
a week-
happening on the 15th.
Week from today.
Don't forget to get your tickets. You will be able to see yours truly, Matt Green, be the assistant to the Master of Ceremonies, who is Joe Cerisi.
Ah.
So there won't be a Porchcast on Thursday the 15th.
Right.
So if you want to see me, get your ticket to Gotta Have Heart. And you'll be able to tune in with Joe Cerisi and I. We're going to take you through the whole program, highlighting the cluster. Tune in on Tuesday to hear more about that. Today's show, we have had the candidate for state representative, Paul Friel, for the 26th district. Did a great job of breaking down his campaign
Excellent.
platform. Thanks for joining us,
Yes, thank you.
Paul.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. This was the most fun campaign event I've done, and I'm not lying. It really is. So thanks
Thank
for
you.
inviting me.
Welcome
you.
back.
It means a lot.
You're welcome to come back anytime you want. And once you get elected,
Yes.
you can certainly come back and visit us
Don't
and let
forget
us
about
know.
your friends in the
I
hood.
absolutely will. This is fun.
Cool.
I will come back. You might regret
Excellent. Well,
asking me.
no,
Nope.
not at all. We love it. We
I'm
love
in-
a
I'm
drive
in.
by. We love
Not
a
at
stop
all.
by. We love to have guests. We do. Yes.
Hey,
Yeah.
I'm in. I can
Yep.
do it.
He's an outdoorsman. He's got it
Right.
covered. We'll be the Aaron to your Moses here on Porchcast. That's a biblical reference going back to our days at St. Pius X High School. Anyway,
Right.
Paul Friel's been here. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for checking out Paul Friel's platform. Paul Friel for PA on Facebook, paulfriel.com on the interwebs. Go check him out to find more information about how you can elect him to state representative. Amy Wolf is our lovely co-host. She is the office manager at Wolf Baldwin and Associates, bringing you fine legal service in the borough of Pottstown since 1973. I am Matt Green at Glocker Real Estate. I am your local real estate expert. Please give me a call if you need help selling or buying residential and commercial real estate. Today, we welcome back our old friend, Kevin Smith, coffeesmith.coffee. We are Porchcast. Let's talk